What is up, guys? It's your boy Jim Rat Crypto. We're coming at you live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. And today we have a really crazy episode. There's a lot of news going on right now. I'll just run through it quick and we'll get right to it because we have about 20 minutes of videos to react to and about 40 minutes of talking in between. And it gets spicy. We're going to be talking about FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, his parents, because GRC likes to get a little elbow grease. Like, I know this kid's not the real deal, but I know someone is met. I like to call them puppets more than, and clearly somebody was taking the lead on that. Let's dive into that. But then we have Grayscale Bitcoin. We know about the you get 2 Grayscale Bitcoin for 1. 2 for 1. 2 for 1. Best performing asset in history. 2 for 1. That needs to change, and we're going to tell you they sent out a newsletter. I got red flags a couple months back. I was like, before all this FTX stuff happened, I was like, GBTC's got to go. 2 for 1. That's not good. And Sam was just telling me beforehand that can last a long time, stuff like that, because rules, legislation, fraud. And so we're going to be talking about that. Twitter files, FBI. We're going to be talking about that. Don't flag me, guys. Come on now. Be easy on me. I'm just the gym rat here. And so we FTX secrets with an insider about how they were getting paid. We got a lot of stuff, and Sam's excited to react to it, and I'm excited because it's Monday morning, and you already know what time it is.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hex and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning. 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 Crypto in the morning.
No, was good. Good intro, bro. This is going to be interesting, right? I think FTX purchased Voyager maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And now Binance is buying Voyager for $1 billion. There's so much of this crap that's going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about, like what's actually taking place with the FTX guys, with all the details in the background.
Nobody has a clue. Even the employees didn't know.
Oh yeah. That's a good preview because we have I don't know.
Why don't we start with that? I want to start with that because this one's probably one that most people would not be able to find. This is what we call a GRC special, but I'll tell you, I'll give credit to the guy because he makes good videos. His name is Chris Norlund, and he has 28.7 thousand subscribers, and he makes good videos. A little libby for me, but good videos. So let's listen to this. If you can see the ginormous words at the top, how do employees feel about it? Association with FTX. Then it switches, as the theme switches, that title at the top will switch. So it'll switch right over to how do they get paid? I think it's like right here. So let's play this for a minute just to get a good backdrop, a good foundation on what we're going to be talking about. It's important that you understand that these are all people and numbers and lies. That's really it. So you just basically use, what do FBI agents and police officers do? They want you to snitch. It's easier. 0 negative externalities for them, for you just to snitch and get wrecked. So let's think about this. Remember, his face is not on the screen for a reason, period.
I think a lot of people have, like, most people I think have a mixture of memories, right? Like, you have good memories because it was a young, dynamic staff that was really trying to build a good product. So I'd say I never got to meet the inside people well, you know? So I was only with the guys on the semi outside.
And people there were genuine. They were passionate. They worked 12, 14 hours a day, right? Like they were thinking they were building this amazing product. So I think people have a feeling like, man, we really were trying to do this legitimately. But then they feel like I personally feel a big shame. Like I was at marketing events getting people to sign up to this. I don't know how much money they put deposited it. Obviously it's gone if they did, right?
Yeah.
I myself and one of the things that FTX did, which I think is one of the worst things possible, was even towards the end, like a month before the collapse and leading up to that beforehand, they were asking employees like, give us $250,000 and we'll match you in equity an extra $250,000.
They were asking employees for money.
Yeah, they were asking because people, as I say, FTX is very.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. So
that's why I wanted to undertone. The employees obviously didn't know.
And that's like, so I own a company. You would like to think that somebody's not completely incompetent. Could be the case with Sam Bankman-Fried, right? Or he could just be a fraud or some kind.
Yeah, he's a fraud. He's just a fraudster. Look at it. We'll talk about his dad. Like the dude's not incompetent. He went to the best Ivy League schools, the best prep schools, the best everything. And his father in 2008. We're going to touch on that. But please go on.
So he's going through and asking people to give him money for this made up token that doesn't do anything except for help out the exchange. And they will match it, right? So if you put in $250,000, you can go through and actually get $500,000 worth of this token, right? Because they needed to raise capital during this time, and this is one way to raise capital. How sketchy are these guys? Even we're going to get into in a minute. We're going to get into
it's more than sketchy. It's just fraud.
Yes,
it's just fraud. Like it's just legitimate, real fraud. And I haven't, frankly, dealt with it too much. Celsius, Terra Luna, I didn't even count because it was like a DeFi fraud. And this isn't a DeFi fraud as much. This is like centralized exchange, total duct tape token fraud, fake leverage. All the employees were paying. Even the liquidity that was there was clearly not theirs. Then they were just taking every ounce of money that could be not seen, I guess, at the moment, and funneling it, hoping for a bull market. But that's not how this life works.
Strong employee loyalty.
Yeah.
Like everyone were FTX $1,000.
They were asking employees for money.
Yeah, they were asking because people, as I say, FTX built this very strong employee loyalty.
Yeah.
Like everyone wore FTX branded clothing. As I said, you think you're maybe on the core, you're on the precipice of building the biggest financial company in history. It's sort of what was telling us all the time, like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So if you have a chance to get double equity and you're like, wow, this can be my big chance to actually own something, and I'm so passionate about it. So they were asking for money from employees. They also deferred a lot of people. Instead of getting salary, you'll get like equity in the company. So they built a lot of that. Myself, I was supposed to, when I got fired about 2 months before for asking minor questions around the edges.
What kind of questions would you?
So
I guess this guy got fired before all this stuff happened.
And so that's two ways to try to raise capital, right? You can ask your employees, right? Sell them a dream and then tell them to like, hey, you can give us capital, right? And then we'll give you equity, which if you're running a company and you already know how bad shape you are, right? This is over like the last 2 months.
You know who else does this? The cartel. You know how they raise money? They crowdfund money and they put up 10%. But everyone that they crowdfund money from in the community will be slaughtered. In this case, not hypothetically, or their businesses will go to zero. They'll make you pay somehow. So what they're basically, it's fraud, but nobody knows it in this case. And in that case, everyone knows it, but it's the same end result. Everyone else is paying and I'm making all the money. And it's all fraud. So, and in the cartel's case too, it's all fraud. It's all illegal drugs. It's all, whether you know how that shit goes. Yeah. So this is illegal shit.
I mean, it's technically legal, but like it's given the perspective you have now, how he was just scamming people. And then because of the scam is blowing up in his face, he's actually trying to take money from employees, both in terms of, hey, if you put money in here, then we'll give you equity. And if you, instead of paying you $150,000, how about we pay you $75,000 and the rest will give you an equity? Both of those are things that are technically legal to do, but given the context of the situation, clearly there was an issue there, and he was trying to save capital by not paying employees in cash and using equity instead, right? Because when you have equity, right, you have two things to sell. Most companies who are not public have one thing to sell: their product or service. They might have 3 or 4 different products or 3 or 4 different services. It's still one thing to sell. When you consider equity, you have 2 things to sell. I can sell you paper, right, which is equity in my company. I can sell you paper, and that's what you can do. So you have paper you can sell that is just nothing, right? It's just nothing you can sell to somebody, and then you have a product or service. And they were using the equity side of things, which is just like, the paper, right? All public companies do this. This is why they were able to raise so much money, because they can take paper, nothing, and just sell it to people for nothing.
Yeah. And it's either fear, greed, or scaring someone. And in this case, it's just like fear and greed, because these guys probably don't make that much. And then they're like, oh, well, if this works out, I'm going to have double. It's going to be pretty great for me, but really in reality, you just got fraudster 101. Now, Sam, what do we got here? Who is this guy right here? What does it say underneath? Stanford University Law School professor. This is in 2008, Sam. Joseph Bankman, the father, the guy that went and talked to him when he was a boy and raised him, was talking about fraud in 2008. This was I was more interested in the sharpness of this man at this moment. First of all, it's hilarious because they're talking about fraud and how to prevent it. And this was a very transitional time in the United States government and economy, 2008 time. So I think it's important that we focus really tight on the whole details here. And I'll spin this back to make it relate, and then we'll move on to the next subject, and Sam will stop me but this is Joseph Bankman talking about fraud and how to make sure that does not happen. And this is Altcoin Daily, a very little piece of Altcoin Daily's video. They have an amazing video. So if you want to watch that, it usually launches early in the morning too. So check this out. This is going to be wild. This is a pretty wild video, in my opinion. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think about it in the chat. Ooh, Richard Hart tweeted a pulse chain update. All right, let me go to that really quick, just so I can make sure that my bags are not in a go time.
Let's see here.
Yeah, Richard Hart. Let's hope he's not blocking me. Nope, we're good to go. Pulsechain.com update. I got it right here. Let's look. Pulsechain.com update. Working on mods. Okay, let me retweet first so everyone else can see it. And then let's click on it. Pulsechain.com update. Working on mods to Lighthouse prerequisite for Beacon Chain Explorer. That would be like the Pulse Explorer, like you do Etherscan. Similar to what was done to make Prism work with our larger integers, which don't fit in their standard UINT slots. Also more AMM fix. Unless you are a dev, it's all gibberish. Well, that's not true, because you can just look up those words and then see what they mean.
It's kind of like
is he trying to give us a little hold on one second, Sam. I think we have a cutscene for that. This could be a little chopped salad. Guys, whoop. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm pretty with it. Sales guy.
We're working on mods to Lighthouse prerequisite for Beacon Chain Explorer. Anybody understand anything that I just said? Similar to what was done to make Prism work with our larger integers, which doesn't fit in the standard UINT slots. Also more AMM fix. But I think he might be doing this on purpose.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a little jokey poo, but guess what I'm going to do? Today, I'm going to decode it word for word on a live stream so I can show everyone why you don't need to be a dev to understand it. Why? It'll probably take me an hour and a half in a notepad to figure out exactly what's saying. But that's because I'm locked in like Joe Biden in 2001, all right? Or like Michael Jordan 1991. Okay? So let's not get it twisted. We're educating people. We're going to do that hard elbow grease work. We like that work. But
do you want to hear the questions? This is a question for everybody. The questions that the employee of FTX was asking before he got fired. We can get into that after we do the Joseph Biden part.
Yeah, this will just be for reference, and then anything I think that's a good idea too. I still have that up, so I think this is a really good reference point, guys. This was a long time ago. SBF was he was probably prepubescent at this point. So
18, right? If that was 12 years ago or 14
I think
years
this was like 18 years ago.
How old is Sam Bankman now? 30?
I think he's like my age. Wouldn't he like the quickest billionaire at 30?
So say he's 30. This is 14 years ago, so he would have been like 16.
And I think it was whatever. I think he mentions it. So let's listen to the whole piece, and he'll mention it for us, guys. Let's sit back. Sam, you let me know if you want me to stop. This man reeks of pure evil.
2008, in front of Congress and the Oversight Committee, talking about hedge fund regulation and what the regulations should be to avoid things like fraud. Oh, the foreshadowing.
I've been asked to provide an overview of hedge fund taxation, focusing on some of the benefits of hedge fund managers. My testimony, however, will also include private equity fund compensation agreements and tax benefits, since they're quite similar. Managers in both these fields receive a management fee, typically set at 2% of the amount under management. They also receive a profits interest, typically set at 20% of the fund's profits. The profits interest is sometimes called a carried interest or simply a carry. The management fee is taxed as ordinary income. The profits interest is taxed as capital gain if and to the extent the fund itself is recognizing capital gain. If it's long-term capital gain, that's at a tax rate of 15% as opposed to the 35% maximum tax rate on ordinary income. In addition, carry is exempt from payroll tax. The way to think about it is to think of the choice our sons and daughters face when they decide upon a career. If they're smart and ambitious, they might become doctors or scientists or lawyers. These occupations and countless other occupations are going to produce income that's taxed at ordinary income rates. Alternatively, they could go into the fund industry and recognize some, and in some cases, most of their income at capital gain rates. That's simply unfair. It violates a common sense maximum that if you have two people earning the same amount, you ought to tax them at the same rate. It's also inefficient. It reduces the size of our economic pie by distorting the career choice our sons and daughters are going to make. It's sometimes argued that hedge.
This dude wants to slap him across
Yo,
the face.
He's like, oh my God, I need another coffee right now. Holy fuck.
You've heard these guys before. You've heard this kind of he's pretty sharp. There's not much salad going on in his speech. It's very sharp. It's locked in, and I feel like his trust was probably in his favor in these moments. And but let's preface it, and then we'll go back to that one piece. But this will preface the whole thing as we go back into seeing how SBF was executing this within his own company from an insider who got fired for questioning things, just like GRC got fired from the Hex community for questioning things.
Tonight, the founder of collapsed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, remains in a jail cell in the Bahamas as he waits for extradition to the United States and the possibility of spending decades behind bars. But what about his parents? I'm surprised so few are asking whether either of them could be in legal jeopardy.
Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. We keep you updated on the entire cryptocurrency market on a daily basis. Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX founder, has been indicted on 8 criminal charges, including fraud and conspiracy. Next to be indicted, Caroline Ellison, CEO of Alameda and Sam Bankman-Fried's ex-girlfriend.
Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math. I think every week or so, something weirder than the previous week would happen. For me, a lot of it was just about sort of, readjusting my expectations and being open to whatever happened. Trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money.
Sam Trabucco, the ex-CEO of Alameda before Caroline took over.
To be clear, so I work for Alameda, not FTX. FTX, they're both founded by Sam Bankman-Fried, but yeah, they're completely different. There's a quite robust Chinese wall between the two. And yeah, so I have no access to what the decision-making process is for FTX.
Barbara Fried and Joe Bankman, Sam Bankman-Fried's loving parents, also seemingly involved in the FTX organization.
Prosecutors involved in the investigation of bankrupt cryptocurrency firm FTX are now looking into the parents of former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried. It's over their alleged involvement in the disappearance of the equivalent to $12 billion in customer funds.
Seems pretty likely to me that people like Caroline Ellison will be indicted over the FTX fraud. The question is, will SBF's parents be indicted? I guess first of all, we should get to know Barbara Fried and Joe Bankman a little bit. And you tell me, do you think they will be indicted?
Fried's father, Joseph Bankman, works as a tax law professor at Stanford, though he's announced he won't be teaching at the university next year. The father, Bankman, worked for FTX for almost a year. Deeply involved in the business in its early days, he helped the company recruit its first lawyers. Last year, he joined the FTX staff in meetings on Capitol Hill. He consulted FTX employees on tax matters and also had a large focus on FTX's charitable operations. His mom, Barbara Fried, retired from teaching at Stanford, was the head of a political advocacy network called Mind the Gap, which she helped start to support Democratic campaigns and causes. Her son was among the donors for the network.
Bro, here you go. Here you go.
You're shaking your head. What's going on over there?
Bro, the parents are probably helping to orchestrate the fraud of bribing, because that's what it is, the Democrat Party using funds from FTX. The mom's involved. Sure. Like I run a couple businesses. I talk to my parents, right? They don't work for me, but I have conversations with them. And then you have these two people who are both in the realm of all the garbage that was happening. Bro, there's no way. Like, there's no way they weren't involved with this shit to a certain extent. Maybe they weren't making this specific decision, right? But you have a child who's a man, right, who just controls a lot of capital, but he's still a child in the sense that he's 28 years old, 30 years old, whatever it is when he's doing these things, making these decisions. And he's going to look up to the people in his life that he also has working for him, like his parents and stuff like that. Man, this could get very ugly.
Yeah, and there is a couple good questions in the chat. We're going to be going to questions at the end. If you have questions or comments about what's going on, you drop them below. You make sure you're sharing this out and make sure you're hitting that like button. What's going on, guys? Hold on one second, guys. I'm here every single day live at 11 a.m. Eastern. Go below the video. You smack those buttons. Hit the bell notification. We're taking it to the next level this week. I'm going to be working basically all day long. Sam's going on vacation. I'm going on vacation next month. So it's going to be a Christmas miracle around here. But let's get back to the fraudsters before it's too late, because who knows what's going to happen to this story and these people over the next year. These things tend to be little twinkles in your eye in hindsight. You know, they tend to get dealt with subtly. And I mean, suddenly. And
meanwhile, Bankman-Fried and his parents together bought real estate in the Bahamas worth $121 million. Now, Bankman-Fried has maintained in an interview with the New York Times that his parents, quote, weren't involved in any of the relevant parts of the business, such as the balances or risk management. Both parents have remained in the Bahamas, and it has been reported they have told their friends their son's legal bills will likely wipe them out. But putting aside their son's legal bills, what about them, particularly the dad? Could he be charged with any crimes?
It's true. SBF's parents working closely with the FTX organization has been well documented for years, not just recently when FTX blew up, but for years, ever since FTX burst into the public eye. For instance, Venture capitalist Katie Hawn went to Stanford with SBF's mom and dad, who taught her everything she knew. She knew SBF as a baby, and her parents facilitated them investing together.
Your story is really interesting to me, and we were talking about this a little bit backstage. So Katie actually went to the Stanford Law School and studied with Sam's mother.
And father.
And father. So,
They tell me what I knew
but they
about
had actually never met in person until just now.
Well, and for a couple decades.
Right.
Like,
Since
Sam
then.
might be the
you
first
saw him
person
when
in
he was a
crypto
little-
I ever met.
She knew Sam when he was a little kid.
Or Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful himself, disclosing his involvement in FTX in 2021 and revealing one of the initial things that attracted him.
This one's real bad. This one's real bad.
You know how we've talked about this and like how the people who are going to be successful over the next decade or two are going to be the people who are talking the truth, right? Who are honest, right? And I think Kevin O'Leary is getting a dose of that, because I don't think anybody believes anything that comes out of his mouth at this point. He's getting called out here. He's getting called out by Binance, right? The person who has integrity, the person who is still in business and profitable, right? Who just bought Voyager, like that company is calling him out and his stuff. It's anybody with like, some functioning gray matter able to see that he is full of BS, at least from like what he says on television, or what he says in these are hearings in front of our government. And it's so obvious exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, it's very. Hey, we have not discussed that. We'll be discussing that very shortly, so stay tuned. That's kind of a bigger deal, probably. This is more so just the funny news that's going on. So let's just listen to O'Leary for one more minute, totally shit on his whole career. Just listen to the words. Listen to the words he says, why he liked FTX, why he says this.
To the FTX business was SBF's parents, compliance lawyers.
And I have to disclose, I'm a paid spokesperson to FTX and a shareholder there too, because we mentioned them, and big advocate for Sam because he has two parents that are compliance lawyers. If there's ever a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be at FTX.
By the way, listen to Joe Bankman, listen to SBF's father talking about how one of the big names that he rubbed elbows with and actually taught at Stanford was Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal. Here he's talking about how he helped Peter pay less taxes.
In business, I've had people like Peter Thiel, I suppose probably the best known student. I think I can reveal he once told me that my class was his most valuable because he was able to put a lot of his PayPal stock in an IRA.
Joe Bankman was heavily involved in FTX. At least that's the way it seems to me. But let's be sure before we indict anybody. Let's ask the current FTX CEO in charge of the bankruptcy cleanup, John J. Ray. This was just a few days ago. Listen to John J. Ray and the Congress members talk about how SBF would bring his dad to meetings and definitely hired his parents.
Is there any evidence of his parents' involvement in the operations?
We're investigating that as well as any other players in the
email, Slack, Signal.
It's billions of records. It's a very vibrant environment.
So I hear that you haven't discovered that. I mean, it would seem interesting that that they didn't either give legal advice or business advice or parental advice, maybe.
Well, certainly, clearly, and I think in our first day papers, we indicated that Mr. Bankman had given legal advice.
Okay, and had he been an employee of FTX, has been reported?
I don't know if he actually had an employee status, but he certainly received payments from the family. Did receive payments.
Okay,
Okay, so this guy, Mr. Ray on Capitol Hill, just said his family definitely received payments, not really technically an employee. What do you receive payments for?
So you could be an employee. So depending on how they're word salad and things, you could be an employee, but you could also have somebody that's 1099, right, or have another business that you're hiring that you're making a payment to,
like legal advice.
Exactly. Like the father could have his own entity, and then I hire the father's company to do work, so that way I can pay my father out. Like, there's some ways you could try to get around that stuff, but clearly he was involved. I don't have any doubt in my mind that he was involved. To what degree he understood that Sam Bankman was also stealing customers' funds, I don't know. But the mother and father were involved. The mother, though, that's a really sketchy thing, right? In how, when I first heard that, like, she's involved with the Democrats in that fund, right? And they're both lawyers. And then we learn about how FTX is sending money to Ukraine, and then that money is getting funneled back into Democrat parties. And then you're going to tell me that the mother who runs or started this fund to help with Democrats isn't involved in this as a lawyer? Like, what are you talking? It's like the sky's not blue, it's fucking orange or purple or whatever. You have to be pretty dense to believe something like that.
Check this out real quick, Sam. This is a retweet from earlier, but we got a couple other tweets on this. In the Grayscale policy notes, in the event of a trust liquidation of all of their Bitcoins, they can only sell 10% of their stack per 3 months. It would be equal to 20,000 BTC per month, or 640 BTC sold per day. Would take 2.5 years to get rid of it all under those distinctions. So for perspective here, there's 900 BTC mined every day. Adding 640 BTC to that sell pressure each day is clearly not ideal, but less 900 plus 640 equals 1540. Then the 1800 BTC that were being mined / dumped every day prior to the last halving. So it's interesting because, Sam, there's a lot of nuance here with how much Bitcoin there is, and then people think Bitcoin is just forever money, and that's just.
This might be triggered. The reason this tweet may have popped up is because in the Bitcoin letter that we're going to get into in a bit, I think the CEO or the Grayscale company behind, I think Genesis or whatever it is, behind Grayscale, says that they might offer or accept it. Excuse me. Sorry. They might accept a tender offer. So what is a tender offer? A tender offer is just going to be an offer to buy the company. And so if they sell the company, right, and a tender offer often occurs when an investor proposes buying shares from every shareholder of a publicly traded company for a certain price. Okay, so think about this for a second. Genesis, they created Grayscale, right? So Grayscale is selling at 50% discount, right? 2 for 1, as you mentioned, right? They're at a 50% discount. This company was doing leverage and they're effed, right? So what do they need? When you're effed, what do you need? You need cash. You need cash. And if you own this company's selling at a 50% discount. One way to get cash is I have this $2 billion asset that is selling for $1 billion. GRC, I will sell you this asset for $1.2 billion or $1.5 billion because you know it's undervalued. And as long as I can verify that I get the BTC and give it in my wallet, I know that I can buy it from you for 1.5, and in the market it sells for 2, right? So if that's the case, they might do that just to get $500 million of cash and actually close down or sell the trust. Now, if it does sell, what happens? Well, if it's a tender offer and they buy it from everybody, they might continue to run it, but then people are only allowed to liquidate about 10% of their holding per month or per quarter or something like that, whatever we just read. So that's how I see this playing out in the future. Like, I think that they probably will sell this to get cash. Genesis needs cash or they're going to go bankrupt.
And as you saw in the tweet, CZ's been all over Twitter. Let's just watch this to preface everything for the people, because sometimes the news spots kind of hold it down for us. This was like an hour ago published. Voyager Digital reaches agreement to sell assets to Binance. And I'll show you all CZ's tweets because God knows he's been tweeting like a man on the greatest regimen in history. and I want to know what but I don't necessarily trust the guy, but it doesn't really fucking matter whether I trust him or not. Who cares? It's not the point. The point is someone stands and someone does something and they're buying all these US things. And at some point, some agreements are going to have to be made, or all the tech stocks and all these things future down the line are going to get, this is an economic battle and a war on information. Let's check it.
The value of Grayscale's Bitcoin trust plummeting down more than 76% this year to date. Join us now to discuss the SEC blocking its proposal for a Bitcoin ETF, the FTX fallout, and much more in an exclusive interview is Grayscale CEO Michael Sonnenschein. If it's not a crypto winter, it's at least an uncomfortable time of year for crypto.
You know, it is a crypto winter, right? We've been through this before. We're unfortunately going through it again, and we may have to go through one in the future. You know, speaking of Voyager and things like that, at the moment, what you're going to see in this crypto winter will be more regulation and certainly some consolidation within the industry. We've seen time and again, bad actors get called out, weeded out of the ecosystem, and crypto emerges more resilient and even stronger each time we see these types of events.
And you expect that to play out the same way?
I do. I've been in crypto for 9 years. I've been through all kinds of cycles, and I've never been more confident or optimistic that crypto as an asset class is here to stay.
With anytime there's support levels, and we've seen a lot of support levels for Bitcoin in particular, new ones have been set. Is there a level where you would worry about most firms and their ability to just stay in business? What would that level be? Could it go back to 6,000?
Crypto could certainly go lower from here, absolutely.
Bitcoin could.
But it's important to know that it depends on the kind of firm you're talking about. Firms that may have liabilities, large outstanding loans, what we've seen as of this crypto winter is a lot of firms employing way too much leverage, and that obviously got them into some bad scenarios that ultimately led to their demise. So I really think it depends on what the business model is and whether they're employing
Did you see CZ? Did you watch our interview last week?
I did not, actually.
Oh, that would have been one maybe to watch. You watched it, right? Do you think, I mean, he could get an auditor. We asked him about an auditor, and he said, well, crypto's too hard to understand.
For auditors,
For auditors, Deloitte, I mean, Coinbase has an auditor, and they say, it's not much bigger than Coinbase. Well, what's that got to do with it? I mean, do you have, when you watch CZ, what is your...
That interview was not his shining moment. And that's happening to a lot of these crypto execs. I think maybe they should do a little bit less TV. But look, Binance has been a great company. It is not easy to get an auditor. That is true in crypto. It's not easy. Auditors require...
No, it is easy. It's just nobody does a good job.
And they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly. Just like CZ said.
Exactly.
CZ said that it's just a piece of paper that means nothing. And I'm on the top of the mountain. And trust me, it doesn't make a difference. And even retail investors know that. Retail investors know that crypto audits are baloney. And they wait for other people to do things, or if they're really technical, they look through everything. But it's important to understand that is true. Everyone says that builds crypto.
Things like very clear controls and processes and a very clear ownership structure of your company.
That doesn't make me feel better if I've got money.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the facts. Unless you've established those things, it's not terribly easy to get an audit.
But if that's the interview was about, I mean, for us, we've had audited financials of our investment products, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We offer, now 17 digital asset products. Those have all been audited going all the way back to 2013, 2014. So I reject the premise that it's hard to get audited financials done. Not to mention, we also have become SEC.
Well, what does that say about Binance? And FTX used to would come in and help out for, it was all over the place. Now Binance buying, sort of bailing out Voyager. Is it going to have a different ending this time, a better ending? Much better.
My perspective is that of US-based businesses that are complying with US-based securities rules, financial regulations. So it'd be tough to say what that would look like outside the US.
That dude was the Grayscale guy, right? So he's involved with Grayscale and getting a auditor to look at something that is approved by the SEC or to actually sell to investors in terms of Grayscale, right? The trust that you need to get audited, right? When you run a company the way that Binance has run, it is challenging, and to try to say that you couldn't find an auditor because we've got an auditor and we have financial products, I think is just a foolish, naive thing to say from that fellow. It just doesn't sound like he's a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it just, yeah, you got to, again, that's exactly what CZ was trying to say, is that guys like him don't get it. They don't get it. And it's because they don't get it.
click on Binance's CZ's profile picture for just 1 second. Scroll to the top and click on this. Look at what it says. We're hiring. What kind of subtle messaging is that?
Oh, he's the meme god. He's the meme god at this point. Let's check him out real quick before we go to a couple other things. So let's see his last retweet. Binance fudders have zero clue on how profitable world's dominant exchange is. How profitable the world's dominant exchange is, meaning of debt-free, asset-pegged 1-to-1, easily handling 10 billion stress tests, no Alameda-type black box, 40% women in top MGMT, CEO and team working 24/7 to make plus impact on world. Stop the FUD.
Oh,
that's from this guy, some Bitcoin guy. So
I like CZ more and more.
So do I. I mean, unless, some horrible fraud comes out, but that's just only speculation. So today, Binance US has selected highest and best bid in Voyagers' reopened bankruptcy asset auction. One deal is completed. Voyager users will finally be able to access their digital assets on Binance US platform. Jesus Lord. This dude's crushing it.
That might be very good, though. Think about this. Because Binance is well capitalized, that just means they have cash. The users of Voyager, right, the lending platform, may be able to actually get some of their coins back.
I think they can. I think they're backed for all retail. Like, I think they're trying to get all the retail guys out.
This is what Brian gets into. Brian Schroeder.
Brian, we hope our selection brings to the end of a painful bankruptcy process which saw customers unfairly dragged into it and no fault of their own. Our goal is simple: return users their cryptocurrency in the fastest timeline possible. Our bid reflects our deeply held belief that customers should come first. Rather than having the asset liquidated for cash, our bid permits users to retain their cryptocurrency and empower them to make future decisions on what they want to do with their assets. New to Binance US customers will have access to our suite of products and services, such as 150 different cryptocurrencies, 300 trading pairs, 5,000 convert pairs, industry-leading low fees, and zero fee BTC ETH trading, and the largest US zero fee BTC trading. What the fuck? At Binance US, we take a customer compliance first approach to every business. Okay, so we see what they're going for there.
Is this guy? This guy is with the Binance team, right? Brian Schroeder?
Yeah, this is Mr. President and CEO. So we're gonna, and then let's go real quick because I retweeted a couple of things that were interesting to me.
Wow. So that's in their bid. They're actually doing it for what's best for the customer. Right. That's literally what CZ has been saying the entire time where you find this tweet. Right. CZ has been saying that he's doing what's right for the customer and doing what's right for the industry to grow the industry. And that is evident in their bid. Right. When FTX goes through, and if it actually came out and they said what they were going to be doing for what their bid was. Right. So if you look this at CoinDesk, I'll just bring this down for a second when you find that. This from CoinDesk. It says FTX wins bid to buy crypto lender Voyagers digital assets out of bankruptcy. This was $1.4 billion in September 27th. Now, in their bid, I guarantee you that they did their bid to buy Voyager in a way where they get to take the money. They get to control the money, not allowing customers to get their funds back, not allowing customers to get their cryptocurrency back. Where Binance, CZ's been saying this the entire time, he's trying to do things to help the industry flourish and grow, as well as help with transparency in crypto. And this is clearly evident in what is taking place right now, bro. I see that as a very positive thing.
Well, now U.S. guys can use that stuff, it seems like, which is crazy, kind of. I mean, that's a big deal. Maybe they just take over. Maybe Binance is just that John. Grayscale. So this was this morning. Grayscale Investor letter foreshadows a Genesis Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Grayscale parent company DCG and our affiliate firm Genesis Global Capital, our products, including GBTC, are separate and distinct legal entities. Chapter 11 is an inevitability. Let's see what anyone said about this. What does separate and distinct legal entities have to do with bankruptcy? That's just legal entity structure. Foreshadowing and distancing the brand. You weren't already aware of this fact? You've been calling for imminent bankruptcy for months. Surely if they were going to doing straight Chapter 11, they would have filed it by now. Something else could be brewing. Yeah, so there's no confirmations here or anything like this, but that premium is just screaming a lot of guys in the face, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, to be quite honest. Let's read his next tweet. So read this carefully. A 20% tender offer is given to the amount of GBTC that DCG owns is very notable. Do the math. They know an ETF is a no-go. Remember that every single word from the DCG conglomerates is being carefully lawyered. So, and then that's on this tweet. So if Grayscale Bitcoin ETF dreams fail, firm may try to tender offer. Remember, we talked about the tender offer. So we're going to keep digging into this and figuring out what's going on as time goes on. But again, sometimes these things can move slow. As we can see, they said the time frame was crazy, and we've seen this. So this is going to add a lot of layers to all of this. You know, they generally don't just go after one company. They go after as much as they can get their hands on. And what if this guy gets a social hold on shit? What if he's making backdoor deals with the US? Whatever. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? Adoption, things working, people changing. You can get your money out of shit now that you couldn't last week because of Mr. Hiring right here. So I think this is all really important to just look at and think about as we move through. And then the last thing that I have, and I want you to touch on it, Sam, is this. You can touch
while you're pulling this up, there's another tweet from yesterday from Binance, just to show you what a fucking
pull that up real quick.
G he is. That
I gotta pee real quick.
Yeah, that talks about how he is hiring, right? So remember, he had changed his profile picture. He's just calling out Sam Bankman here and FTX. This is from the 18th, right? I know it's Sunday, but we're still hiring. It was not easy saying no to Super Bowl ads, stadium naming rights, large sponsor deals a few months ago, but we did. Today, we're hiring for 2,000 positions for Binance, and they're still hiring, right? The positioning of Binance is going to coming out of this, right? When you have a event increases volatility, you have things going bankrupt, you have all this chaos happening in the marketplace, and then there's always one or two players who are very well positioned because they were run intelligently by a good leader, right? And they're well capitalized, meaning that they just have a lot of money sitting around. So when they go through crisis, there's one or two players that comes out the other side of the crisis, and they're substantially stronger, they're substantially bigger, and more people know about them. And it looks like this is going to be the case with Binance. As we go into this bull run, Binance is going to be even more dominant, because who else is out there? There's nobody else out there. He ran his ship the way he was supposed to run his ship, it appears. GRC, Gunther, just posted that he needs someone to host a live stream where he gives away 10,000 PLSB, just FYI. So that's probably going to be you running that live stream. You want to pull this up, one more clip here. This is a video from Fox News.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just messaged Gunther, so we'll see if I can set that up. When is that? Do you guys know when that is or what? I can't remember. If it's coming up in the next couple of days, I definitely can do it. But today even I can do it, but I need comms, as we say in the military, which I've never been in. So this is pretty wild. This is a little bit off, but on topic, of course. You know, government, social media, Twitter. We got Elon saying he's going to leave. because he can't find a CEO. We got all this stuff happening. We got Elon did a poll, 51% said they wanted him out. The FBI wants to make sure every United States citizen has no freedom, all that jazz. You know that jazz. That's just a little sauce. No freedom is just a little sauce these days. It's not even big sauce. So let's listen. I like this guy, but again, I don't know much about all this stuff. Hey, look at her. She's pretty nice. Nice hair lady. Looking great. So what do we got going on here? We got FBI Twitter had a master canine relationship. That's what it says at the bottom. And let's play this. And then we'll touch on a few things, and then we're out. And I want biceps in the chat. And I want to see, what do you guys think about the show? What do you want me to cover later this week? Who do you want me to get on? Show me in the chat now. And Lane, I'm going to answer you in DMs. I'm not going to cover that. And then there's a couple other things that we'll touch on.
We're going to bring in former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker. He's now here to react. So, Chris, the more and more that transpires in this story, the more concerning it becomes that the FBI, which is supposed to be bipartisan, perhaps meddled in the election. So what are we going to do to prevent this from happening again?
Yeah, I'm not a big supporter of congressional hearings, but I think in this case, more transparency, more sunlight on this needs to be. We need to have more of that, because, gosh, the FBI has no business being involved in suppressing free speech. I could understand if they had a counterintelligence operation and they saw that some Russian intelligence officers or Russian intelligence operation was attempting to use Twitter to spread misinformation that was advantageous to Russia or could undermine our democracy. But I can't see any other scenario where they could or would or should ban U.S. citizens or ban any type of free speech dialogue. Never seen it in my entire career, in my 40 years in law enforcement. I've just never seen this. It's not a proper role for my former agency, which I love. I'm looking forward to some hearings.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in your position. Assistant Director of the FBI. Does this FBI permutation over the last 4 or 5 years resemble in any way, shape, or form the bureau that you were a part of?
It's hard to recognize. And of course, I'm part of the retired agent network, particularly retired FBI executives who retired at high levels. I talk to people inside the bureau, people that are recently retired, and people who have traditionally supported the FBI out there in the law enforcement community and the community at large. They're scratching their heads. They're perplexed. The FBI is hemorrhaging supporters because somehow their leadership has put them in the middle of political cases and the political arena, which I never saw in my 25 years of active service. And I haven't seen it, until very, very recently, since I think it started possibly under Comey. And it's just extended forward. All of the top level FBI executive positions seem, not all of them, but many of them seem to be ideologues who think that they can just bring their ideology to work with them.
And before we get to the next topic, I just have one more thing. It said that they showed emails from the FBI officials requesting bans on Twitter users, but the FBI is refusing to say which other social media networks that they perhaps worked with. Do you foresee things like Instagram and Facebook being a part of this as well?
I do. I think it's a much broader outreach effort on the part of the FBI to get into the social media world, if you will. I mean, they've always tried to, since 9/11, they've been trying to reach out to businesses and educate them about counterintelligence operations and that sort of thing and how to protect themselves. This goes way, way beyond that. They need to just check out of this business completely and get back to doing what they should be doing, which is putting people like Sam Bankman-Fried in jail.
Let's get to that. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried expected to agree to extradition from the Bahamas on crypto fraud charges and is expected to appear in court today. Chris, what's next in the...
So think about this for a moment. I'm the president, right? And there is a agency that is working with the Democrat Party to actively suppress free speech in America. Happening today. This is not a movie. It's not a fake story. This is what's actually taking place in America today. And we just have evidence on Twitter, but I guarantee it's on Facebook and on Instagram. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's on TikTok as well.
It's all out there.
Across the board. It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is utter ridiculous. This is why are not people in the FBI going to jail? Why isn't there more transparency in all of this malarkey, right, that's taking place right now? Because this is how people are going to get hurt. This is also how people end up in tyranny, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that's hidden, and you're shutting off people on one side, and you're shutting off their opinion on one side. This is not a good direction. I just wanted to get into that before we got into
Yeah, it's not. You're correct. But again, it's the bottom's always looking ugly, and I like that it looks ugly. It makes it easier when the bottom looks ugly. It makes it make more sense. It makes it seem more likely that it'll go back up. All of that stuff. But we need to see that Grayscale get nuked.
This saga, do you anticipate new charges?
I do. I think it's a wise move on his part to go ahead and waive extradition, lest he cool his heels in a less than pleasant prison in the Bahamas, as opposed to getting up into the U.S. and facing his charges and just getting on with it. I expect to see a wave of superseding indictments once he gets up to the United States. I think the charges that he's facing right now are what we call placeholders. They're just to get him extradited and get him in the criminal justice system. It was pretty quick in terms of the investigation. As you apply it to white collar crime type cases, which are fairly complex, this one being no exception. So I think there'll be a wave of superseding indictments. I think he's going to see dozens and dozens of charges. And I think it's a slam dunk situation because you have a bankruptcy trustee who is fully cooperating with the FBI investigation and the SEC investigation. So you don't have to fight for documents and fight for books and records.
And he has surrendered to the U.S. extradition request.
Oh man!
So that I don't know if that just happened, but that's definitely happened now.
What a crazy time right now in the crypto space, right? What a crazy time with all this stuff taking place. Even when he's going to be in jail here, right? And then maybe his dad will get charged with stuff. Maybe his mom will get charged with stuff. Maybe some of the people who are in the Democrat Party. This is highly unlikely. This is what should happen, but highly unlikely to actually happen. Maybe some of those people will actually be held accountable, and yet we still have Grayscale, to their parent company, the DCG, to fail. We still need that to go through and fail before things can turn around, and then we have that macro environment of like what's taking place globally. We're in a recession. Right, we know that going into 2023, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better with the recession. So maybe this is a very prolonged period of time. I think the next Bitcoin halving is in 2024. Does this prolonged period of a bear market hold out until 2024? Are we in a bear market throughout?
Crypto is so innovative and low liquidity. It's just like new shit comes out. If it's going to last a whole year, they're going to get wrecked on new shit, like stuff that hasn't started yet. And it's going to, even like Zen don't have nothing in it yet. Is it going to next year? Hell yeah. And remember, it's not about the price chart. You've been fooled to think it's all about the price chart. It's about the amount of money in the network via how many users have it and that rate. And that distribution pattern is really important with that because then it changes the entire dynamic. So yeah, let's be done, Sam.
This is a good show. There are lots of good, interesting stuff happening, guys, in it right now.
Yeah, when there's no real direct DeFi shit going on, like I'm just going to cover the news, and it's helpful because they're related heavily now, more than ever. Like it's like a very crossover now. It's pretty tight. And the mainstream media news is picking it up, and all the new YouTubers will come in and they'll say they have all the insight in the world. But you'll notice if you've been watching this show for any length of time, you'll be able to call out the fraudsters just about ASAP. And I suggest you do it with a meme. And I like to do stuff like this. I like to do stuff like this. I like to do stuff like I like to do, I mean, we got these guys coming in.
Did you do that one?
No. This one was just going around the interwebs. So we got a lot of stuff going on here, and we all know resistance is futile, though. I mean, that's what they want you to think. There is no resistance. But the truth is, I think the resistance wins on this one pretty easy because they have no information. This is like the first time where they actually don't have the info. Like, they're clearly too stupid to even realize you need a audit. Auditing is just like 12-year-old freaking work. Now, like the standard, or what we see, at least in DeFi, is like, no, why would I give a shit about what? I just want to know that there's money in there and other people that are risking their biscuit, basically. And it's DeFi, real DeFi.
Where you get to see the transparency on the blockchain, like what's actually in the pool, right? Imagine, right? What a novel idea to have that transparency.
No. Drug dealers use that for terrorism and sex trafficking only. That's why Bitcoin was invented. No, I'm kidding. That's not true at all. And no criminals would ever use a transparent ledger for their trades. That would be ignorant in every single way, shape, and form, down to even using it for drugs, because it's harder for people who don't know anything about it. So anyway, guys, let's get out of here. Crypto in the morning, every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you want me to decode Richard Hart's word salads live, if you want me to get Jack Levin on, if you want someone else on, just tell me in the comments what you want. If you leave it in the comments, I will probably read it and I will get to you. Just let me know what you want, who you want. You know, GRC's got it going on. I'll be in these guys' DMs in 2 seconds. I think Wolverine might be using someone else for the show, which might be smart because he already went on my channel. So, but guys, crypto in the morning every single day. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube. We'll probably be just doing a lot of stuff. And I'm going hard this week. You're going to see shorts and all sorts of stuff. I got a bunch of work to do, guys. Every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way.